Welcome to episode 19 of Turf Talk with Matt
and Casey.
Hey, you know, it's been 4 months since we've released one of these videos from when the last season ended and this season, so be kind to us. We're a little rusty on this, but we know the content, which is what really matters.
That's what matters.
And so it's kind of early February right now when we're shooting this video, and we're getting ready to come into the spring season. And now most people think that spring starts in April when the birds are chirping and flowers start to bloom and stuff, but when we're in the turf care industry, we have to be ahead of the curve, and we are watching maps and weather patterns and forecasts and things like that, because there's very critical temperatures that we have to hit. And so that's what really separates a homeowner driven program from a professional program.
Absolutely.
Typically, by the time a homeowner thinks to go out and put fertilizer, it's too late. The crabgrass has already germinated. It's past the first, second, or third tiller stage, and then you can't do anything about it until the next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Casey, tell us a little bit about crabgrass and why the timing in the spring is so critical.
Sure. So crabgrass obviously is a weed. It's an undesirable plant that's going to be in the lawn. It's a very pesky plant because when it starts to grow, it's going to crowd out all the good grass, and it's going to kill it off. And then with it being an annual, as soon as we see frost, that crabgrass dies, and you're left with a nasty little bare patch that's going to grow more crabgrass next year. So we want to really try to get a good handle on crabgrass control.
Speaking of that, how does crabgrass grow? Does it put little tap things down and it spreads that way? So if they don't get a handle on this, is it going to keep getting bigger and take over a bigger area of the ground?
It will. Crabgrass is what is known as a prostrate weed, meaning it grows flat. So you'll have the little spike that pops up when it germinates, but as it grows, it's going to lay itself down, kind of like your hair parts, and it's going to spread out and grow tendrils. And from those tendrils, it's going to branch out even more, and it's going to cover, a crabgrass plant can cover almost a manhole-sized cover.
Oh, wow.
Or piece of area if it's left unattended.
And it's pretty much always going to outcompete the grass.
Always.
So that's why it's super critical to try and prevent any of these grassy weeds. And that's just one example of a grassy weed that we target. And that's the one that you're going to hear of the most. Crabgrass control, crabgrass control. Crabgrass is sprouting, the crabgrass here. But you know, there's probably 50 or so different types of grassy weed that pre-emergence actually attack.
Yeah, the most common here, and everybody just calls them crabgrass because when they're young, they're hard to tell the difference between. It's not until they mature and you can see seed heads and mature stalk growth that you can really tell the difference between some of them. You've got cattail or foxtail, you've got goosegrass, you've got quackgrass. There's a handful that are really common here in Indiana. But again, everybody just calls them crabgrass. Our pre-emergence will control all of those grasses. And that's what I want to talk about now, Matt, is how these pre-emergence
Before
work.
we get into the pre-emergent, if you have crabgrass, that's a good indication that you need to aerate and overseed.
Yeah,
also.
absolutely.
Now, we do not recommend aerating and overseeding in the spring. We don't even do it. We refuse to aerate and seed in the spring because it's not the right thing to do. However, if you have crabgrass problems, that means that there is an area of your lawn that is exposed, and through aeration and overseeding, that's how you fill those areas in. And so it's kind of like, I always give the example, it's like playing a competitive sport. You practice for 7 days to play the game for, like 1, 2, or 3 hours.
Right.
But you practice for an entire week leading up to that. So if, the spring is the game, that's when you're going to play your 3 hours. That's when crabgrass is coming up. What did you do the prior fall to try and prevent that crabgrass from growing? So if you have crabgrass, we're going to do whatever we can to prevent it. But if you still have it throughout the summer, you have to aerate and seed. That's the only way to really solve the problem. Pre-emergents are just a band-aid on it. The real fix is aeration and seed and getting a healthy, thick lawn.
You're absolutely right, Matt. before you even consider the pre-emergent, you want to be mowing properly at the right height. You want to be watering properly, and you want to do that aeration and overseed. Get the lawn nice and thick. The best weed control we can offer is a thick, healthy lawn. We achieve that through fertilization, aeration, and overseed.
Yeah.
The pre-emergent, what it is, like you said, it's a Band-Aid, it's a barrier. It's kind of like putting on sunscreen before you go out to the beach. It's going to prevent most of that sunburn. The round one pre-emergent that we put down, it's put down in a granular form, has to be watered in. Nice thing about that time of year, Matt, we're
raining
seeing rain
anyways.
or a little bit of snow. The soil's really wet. You know, typically we're seeing 30 to 32% soil moisture content, and we'll talk about that a little later. That fertilizer will actually suck that moisture out of the ground, start to break down, release that pre-emergent, and put that moisture back into the ground with the product in it.
And sometimes the best timing is to try and get it, and then a small snowfall comes afterwards, because that snowfall will sit on the pre-emergent and it will water it in itself.
Break it down and spread it out. So the round one pre-emergent, if I had to put a number on it, just based on my experience, this is not through any research, but my own, 70 to 80% effective. If you only do one round of pre-emergent, you're going to see bleed through. And the reason for that, some areas probably aren't going to get covered properly. You know, it might break down in areas. Anything that breaks that soil surface, you know, dog digging, you know.
Heaven forbid there's a small area and they want to go out and scratch the surface after we put the pre-emergent down.
Bad enough.
If you scratch the surface to put a little bit of seed down because you think it's going to grow and survive the summer, which it won't. But if you do that, you've just destroyed the barrier.
Correct, and you're going to see crabgrass pop up through there. So what we do is we make sure, first of all, we're getting that round one down at the right time. Purdue research has shown that these herbicides can be put down as early as March 1 and still be effective all season. And that's the target we shoot for when we go out to fertilize our customers' lawns. March 1 is like our target day to start production. The reason for that, the temperatures are starting to get right, soil temperatures are starting to get right. We want to have enough time to get that pre-emergent down before we hit that crucial soil temperature where crabgrass is germinating, which is 55 degrees, and have that pre-emergent round down before that happens. Now, what we're going to see in the spring, Matt, is soil temperatures are going to slowly rise on average. You know, there's going to be days where it's going to spike up and it's going to go down. We'll look at that in a moment. But soil temperature is going to vary a lot. It can go up as much as 15 to 20 degrees in a day and then drop 15 to 20 degrees overnight. What we look for is a consistent 55-degree average. And the way we do that, Matt, is we use a couple of maps that will show us the current soil conditions or temperatures in our area. So what we're looking for is going to be in this box right here, and I'll show you a blow up of that. But what it does is it tells us the current soil temperature, the 24-hour average, and the 5-day average. We're looking at that 5-day average, and we're watching for that to be 55 degrees.
And that's when crabgrass is busting. So
That's
we
when
have
you see
to,
that crabgrass.
our goal is to have the pre-emergent down before that time.
Correct.
And it changes every year. So timing is a little bit hard, but even if we get it down and it's prior to 55 degrees, it's not like it goes in the soil and disappears. It's going to last, but we want to try and get the pre-emergent down for all of our customers prior to it being 55 degrees on average.
Right. And like you said, Matt, we get that stuff down. We try to aim for that target of having it down before soil temperatures hit 55 degrees. But with the way Indiana weather varies, sometimes we can't always guarantee that's going to happen. That's why we do a 2-round pre-emergent program, where in round 2 we're using a pre and post-emergent.
Which is unique. Not a lot of companies actually do multiple rounds of pre-emergent. Some of them will tell you that they do, but we know just from knowing other people in the lawn care industry that not all of them do that.
What really makes it unique is that post-emergent property, because that's what a lot of companies are shying away from. We put it down as a blanket application in round 2. We want to guarantee that our crabgrass control program is as close to 100% effective as possible. We want very, very little bleed through. And I would say with that second round, pre and post emergent, we probably hit close to 99%.
Yeah, because the first round is granular, and so, but the second round, even if you have a little crabgrass piece pop up, before it gets to the first tiller stage, we can spray that, and once it's sprayed, then it will start to kill. It'll burn that down, and it'll kill the crabgrass from growing.
What I want to show them here, Matt, is kind of the tiller stages of crabgrass, and you can see crabgrass in tiller stage 1. That's a newly germinated plant. You're not even going to see that in your lawn. 2 tillers, you're still not going to see that in the lawn. It's going to blend in so well with the grass, you're not going to see it. Between tillers 2 and 4, that crabgrass is going to build up an immunity to the post-emergent herbicides, and you're probably not going to be able to kill it. We're talking probably somewhere around the end of April, going into May, we're probably going to hit that area. So in April, when we're putting down round 2, we're putting that post-emergent down, and we're killing the crabgrass while it's still in this stage.
And that's why we blanket spray everything, because you don't know what is grass and what is a grassy weed. So that's why in round 2 we blanket spray everything regardless. That's just our process. And the reason we do that is because we're not going to be the cheapest company, but we are going to deliver those results that everybody wants.
Absolutely.
And so we refuse to cut corners, specifically on high value things like this. Like crabgrass is a huge complaint in our industry. And yes, our treatments may cost a few dollars more a treatment, but that's the reason why, because we refuse to make a less quality product.
We don't cut corners. We use top quality products, and we go the extra mile to make sure that they're getting every bit of value out of that dollar that they spend for their lawn care.
Absolutely. And so, but if you come on and you're not necessarily an early person on our program, you've missed round 1, round 2, we're still going to put the post-emergent down. Depending on the timing, we may be able to get control of it. We may not be able to, so you may unfortunately have to live with the crabgrass for the remainder of the season. But eventually that's going to hit frost, and crabgrass doesn't like the cold. So once that first frost hits, it's going to zap it, it's going to kill it.
Yep.
And then, by that time, we are either getting ready to aerate and seed, or we have already probably aerated and seeded. And so then that seed can start taking root, and now it's going to start being able to outcompete.
Yeah, it's going to fill in those holes that the crabgrass made. It's going to start to fill in the spring, and we're going to put down that pre-emergent to stop any new crabgrass from popping up from the seeds from last year. And we're going to continue to thicken that lawn up and eliminate those crabgrass problems. So.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, lawn care is not super complicated, right?
It depends on how you look at it, but no, it can be very simple.
It's not rocket science here that we're talking about. I mean, there's a lot of development that goes into creating these products and all that stuff, but it's really about timing and making sure that you're using great products and putting it down the correct way. All of your equipment is calibrated, and the whole 9 yards. And so one reason, there's a few reasons why professionals stick out from homeowners. One, it's because a homeowner probably 99% of the time, unless you are a super lawn geek, you probably have never calibrated your equipment.
Right.
You probably have no idea how fast you're supposed to walk. And so you, listening to this, you might be like, wow, they actually think about how fast that they're supposed to walk. Well, absolutely, because the faster you walk, the wider it spreads. And so that presents a problem. And we have to hit certain milestones throughout the year.
Correct.
With precise product for you to deliver that perfect lawn. So we do see that a lot of times homeowners that have sod or whatever, they'll start doing it themselves, and then after a number of years they say, hey, look, it's just getting out of control, I can't handle it anymore.
Yep.
And then they need a professional to come in and actually put it down. And it's not that you can't figure this out, it's because your life is busy. You have other things that's more important than cracking the bag of fertilizer open and putting it on the lawn, And so you miss those critical days.
Yeah.
And that's why that it's really hard for a DIYer to get the same results, because this is this is our full-time job, this is our passion, we're gonna get it down, and life happens and you forget, you know?
We don't forget. We're going to make sure that we're out there. We make sure our timing is spot on. You know, weather always causes some delays, especially in the spring, but we time this program where we're starting early enough, we're working fast enough and hard enough, and we're going to make sure we get to every customer.
And so, as we are growing our lawn and our pest control side of the business, we're adding on to our pest control offerings this year.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit, Casey, about what we're adding to the program.
Matt, I'm excited to talk about this. What we're adding this year, we're adding a rodenticide program. So we want to keep those pesky little mice out of your home. What I have here is a bait box. This is a weighted bait box. They'll be placed about every 50 feet around the home. Your average home, you know, 2,000 square foot home is going to have 4 traps. One on each side of the property. These are very heavy traps. The wind's not going to blow them away. Kid's not going to pick them up, carry them off. They're very secure.
What does this do?
So what this does is it holds bait. We use this, and I'll show you in a moment, this mouse bait. It's specifically designed to attract rodents that are going to be in that area looking for a place to get into the home.
So this is for mice and rats and anything like that?
Mice, rats, and voles.
Anything that's going to try and eventually get into your house, because that's where they find warmth, that's where they find water.
It's where they find food.
We see this a lot in new builds.
Yeah.
Because new builds, it used to be farmland or it was forest or something like that. So you have invaded these rodents' areas of living. And so over the course of time, that rodent is looking for somewhere to call home. And you could be the lucky person that rodent calls home.
Absolutely, Matt. I was doing some research before we put this program together, and I found that 1 in every 3 American homes has or will have a problem with mice. That means if you didn't get it, the neighbors got it. If the neighbors didn't get it, you're probably going to get it.
You know, that's kind of interesting you say that, because I was in St. Louis last week. You know, I was at this really nice convention center. It was probably recently built, not too long ago, and I'm sitting there, and right behind the presenter in this big convention hall, a mouse ran right along the wall.
Yeah.
And I would have never thought, you know, that I'm going to see a mouse. I mean, it was really nice, very well kept up place. Mice don't care what your economic level is. They don't care any of that. They're just looking for a place to find warmth and shelter and food.
Mice can smell the crumbs that we don't see, that we don't realize are there. They can smell our food, our trash from outside of the home, and they can crawl through a hole as big as your pinky finger.
Yeah.
And one female mouse can have a brood of babies, I believe, every 60 days, and she's going to have 12 to 15 pups at a time. They can very, very quickly take over a home, and it just takes one pregnant mouse to get in through a crack that you didn't know was there, and you've got an infestation.
Yeah.
So we want to put these out around your home. Keep those mice out. Now these are very secure. I want you to realize that these can't just be opened by anybody. You have to have this special key that fits in there. It takes a lot of pressure to open these.
And these things are heavy too.
Oh, it's heavy. There's a stone or a brick in the bottom of this that gives it a lot of weight. So like I said, the wind's not going to carry it off. A dog's not going to carry it off, or a cat. Your kids are not going to pick this up and play with it. It's heavy, it's bulky, but your bait is going to go inside here. There are prongs that secure that bait so the mouse can't carry it out. One mouse isn't going to empty this trap. It'll continue to do its work over a month's period until the next check, when the technician comes out and reinstalls new bait.
So for a program like this, what does it look like? Is this a set it and forget it thing? Or is this do we check on it once a quarter, or like what would a customer experience?
A customer would experience their technician coming out every month to check this box. We want to be out there January, February, March, April, May, June, July, every month, making sure that this box is baited, it's ready to go, and you're covered 12 months out of the year.
And what months are mouse, rodents, what months are they the most active?
They're active all year long, but we see the most home invasion going into winter. that's when, it's getting cold outside. The mice are looking for not only food and water, but they're looking for shelter. Because again, they breed just prolifically. They want a nice, safe place where they can stay fed and they can have their babies and raise their young in a nice, warm, safe atmosphere. And in the wintertime, your chances of seeing a mouse come in, they double.
Yeah. And they like to hide, so you might not see them all the time, but you might see droppings around or something like that. But they're in and around. Like there's an airport behind me, so we have mice. I mean, they just come from there's cornfields back there, so there's field mice and things like that. And so something like this is going to be, all over.
Absolutely.
It would be needed to be filled all the time because we just get enough field mice and things like that. And, so what else? I know we added this. We still have our perimeter pest control, our flea and tick program,
Absolutely.
and
We've got all
our
of that.
mosquitoes.
Our mosquito program. We're also going to do a mole program this year, where if you have a mole, you give us a call, or if your technician sees a mole, he's going to let you know, hey, I'm seeing damage from a mole. Probably ought to do something about that. We have a program for that this year. Your technician is going to come out. He's going to look at those mole runs, and he's going to install a bait inside of that run and cover it up. And that bait is specifically designed. It's very well designed to attract that mole. It looks, smells, and feels just like their food source. But it is a poison bait. It will, after the mole eats that bait, it will kill it off.
And so because of that, we will let you obviously know when that happens. We'll put flags in at every single place that we put this, just to make sure that, when you have your dogs out and such, you just keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
They're, probably not going to get into any of this stuff, but we just act out of a sense of precaution. Now we want to let you know, hey, this is where we put all this bait in here, just to make sure you don't have, a bloodhound or something that's going to smell it and go after it, like crazy. But Casey, from a customer standpoint, I don't know anything about moles. How do I know if I have moles in my lawn?
If you have a mole in your lawn, you're going to know. What you're going to see is a raised line or area of grass that's really soft. If you step on it, your foot's going to sink in it. They're going to push that grass up.
It's like a little hump.
It looks like a hump. And then anywhere that they come to the surface, they'll come to the surface at night, because at night crawlers, which is one of their main food sources, are up on top of the grass moving around. So they'll come up and hunt. But the rest of the time during the day, they're very sensitive to the sun. They're underground. They just tunnel.
So they run through these tunnels all day long, just looking for food. Somebody's going to crawl into their food space, and then they eat it up.
Typically, what you'll see is they will build their main den under like a porch or a mini barn. Those are the most common places. They'll come out of tree lines where it's nice and sheltered. The soil stays a little cooler under there, moisture. It's a much more inviting environment for their home to be. But when they go out to hunt and eat, they'll move anywhere through the lawn that they can dig through, and that's most of the lawn. They're specifically built with these nice little paddle feet with claws, and they can just tunnel like crazy. I believe a mole can travel 20 to 30 yards, 40 to 60 feet in a day's time.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So you made you talked about sheds and things in people's backyards. Is a shed something that we would want to put a bait box out on?
We really wouldn't want to put a bait box out by a shed. Obviously we would if the customer has an issue with mice in their shed. Maybe they're storing clothes or something in there. They don't want the mice in there. We most definitely will. It's not one of our specifically targeted areas. We really just want to target the home.
Places that you're living.
Places that you're living, yes.
Fair enough. Do you have anything else?
No, I think that covers everything. For round one, Matt, we're gearing up. We're getting our guys ready. We're doing some training in the coming weeks to make sure that they're all revised and they're up to date on everything that they need to know going out the door, especially with these new programs that we're introducing. We pride ourselves in making sure that when your technician shows up, they're an expert. If they don't have the answer, they know where to get the answer. And they're going to take great care of you. They're going to be your friend in the lawn care business and help you through this process. So,
awesome. Well, hey, that's it for episode, I think it's 19.
19.
of Turf Talk, and we'll see you in the next one.
2023.
We'll see you guys.